Welcome to the Ultimate Ukraine channel. The hottest days of the war between Ukraine and Russia are experienced in eastern Ukraine, at a time when the Ukrainian and Russian authorities want to surprise their rivals by using new war strategies. The Kremlin government does not want to lose territory in the annexed Luhansk and Donetsk regions. Russia concentrated almost all its power in the Bakhmut regions, where the Ukrainian army has an important structure. Russia is carrying out numerous attacks on the region in order to ensure its dominance in the Donbas region. The majority of these attacks are concentrated in the directions of Bakhmut. In the past months, Russia has strategically withdrawn its troops from the Kherson region, preventing the bloodiest war that the world has been waiting for from taking place. But with the failure of both sides to withdraw from the Donbas region, the expected bloody war between Ukraine and Russia moved to Bakhmut. The new story of the war was written here. Look, even if Russia is thought to be advantageous at this point, as long as the Ukrainian armed forces' pressure in the south continues, the shift of the war to the eastern front may distract the Russian army and divide them. This may open the doors of Crimea to the armed forces of Ukraine. Even if Russia is attacking from Donbas, it is understood from the published reports that the Ukrainian armed forces thwarted these attacks. The Ukrainian Defense Forces repelled the attacks of the Russian invaders on 19 settlements in the regions such as Sumy, Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Luhansk in the past day. In the past day, the invaders carried out 6 missile strikes and 6 airstrikes on civilian targets in the Kharkiv and Dnipropetrovsk region. The enemy also fired over 70 with multiple launch rocket systems, the report said. At the same time, in the direction of Slobodshansky, Russian invaders attacked Shevchenka, Strelecha, Neskuchna, Ternova, Staritsia, Vovchansk, Volokivka, and Stroykivka in the Kharkiv region with tanks, mortars, and artillery. The striking point here was after Russia concentrated its ground operations on Bakhmut. It tried to tire the northern and southern fronts of Ukraine with air attacks and artillery attacks. In order to prevent the Russians from gaining an advantage in the Donbas region, Ukrainian forces are making an unprecedented defense in Bakhmut where they regain control. However, in the face of increasing Russian attacks, the Ukrainian army had to take new measures. In addition to the heavy attacks of the Russian troops in the direction of Bakhmut, Ukraine cannot increase its military concentration in Bakhmut due to missile and suicide drone attacks in many regions. For this reason, special operations units of the Ukrainian armed forces began to move to the region. Yes, it means that the new nightmare will come true that will haunt the dreams of the Russian armies in Bakhmut. According to the latest news from the front, Azov Regiment, the most special operations unit of the Ukrainian armed forces, is about to deploy at least 2 battalions of soldiers in the direction of Bakhmut. 3 days ago, 2 battalions of the Azov Regiment had arrived in Kramatorsk, 35 kilometers west of Bakhmut, with a total of about 1,700 men. The ultimate purpose of the appearance of the Azov battalions here is to move in the direction of Bakhmut, where it's planned to provide support to the units of the armed forces of Ukraine, which are currently experiencing serious problems with the defense of the city of Bakhmut. Information about the arrival of 1,700 members of the Azov Regiment in Kramatorsk was reported by the spokesman of the Russian separatists in the Donetsk region, Danil Bessonov. The transfer of such great powers to Kramatorsk is proof that the Ukrainian army is preparing for very serious wars. It is reported that as of today, Azov battalions have joined the forces of the Ukrainian army stationed in Bakhmut. The main thing that distinguishes the Azov battalion from other battalions is the successful operations they carried out in the war that has been going on for 10 months. They have strategically overpowered the Russian army many times over, and this is seen as a standard move for them. We are talking about the operating and most experienced battalion on the battlefield. In recent days, the Ukrainian armed forces actively used the American HIMARS systems on the outskirts of Bakhmut, actively using it not only in the city itself, but around it as well, so that it becomes easier for great powers to come to the region. With 75% of the Azov regiment deployed in the area, it may be easier for such a large force to break through the invaders' defenses and take the city through the corridor formed by HIMARS. Attacks by the Ukrainian forces with HIMARS systems procured from the United States will cause the Russian army to take a defensive position. In fact, as a result of these attacks, the Russian defense units will receive serious injuries. After the Russian forces take a defensive position, an important movement area will be provided for the Azov battalion, which was included in the Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut. We will return to the Azov battalion, but we think that the visit of the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, to the USA will be a very important point in these operations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that he returned from Washington with good results and brought the decisions that Ukrainian forces fighting in the south of the country with the Donbass were waiting for. In his statements, the President of Ukraine stated that they are protecting their country as patriots, and the United States is committed to giving more support to this defense. This is important because no matter what, the basis of the Ukrainian attacks is directly related to the supply of weapons from the West. While special Ukrainian units such as the Azov battalion establish superiority on the field, a support with the power of Western weapons will reveal a great support on the battlefield. While the Azov battalion destroys Russia's most critical targets, the crowded but dysfunctional Russian troops must be neutralized with Western weapons. When we think of how the Azov battalion survived the hell of Mariupol and that they are still at war, we understand the importance Ukraine attaches to Bakhmut. The main base of the Azov battalion is the city of Mariupol in the coastal region of the Azov Sea. Azov was initially formed as a volunteer militia unit in May 2014. It's been fighting the Russian separatist forces in the Donbass War ever since. In June 2014, they had their first combat experience to retake Mariupol from the pro-Russian separatists. On November 12, 2014, Azov was included in the Ukrainian National Guard, and since then, all members of the battalion are official soldiers serving in the National Guard. While the Ukrainian army was trying to damage the Russian forces with American-made HIMARS, the Russian forces launched attacks towards the region where the Azov unit was located. Kirilo Tymoshenko, deputy head of the presidential office, stated that Russian soldiers launched 2 attacks in Kramatorsk. Tymoshenko stated that in the attack on the Kramatorsk in the Donetsk region, one Russian rocket hit the boarding school building and the other hit the industrial zone of one of the businesses in the city. According to Tymoshenko, there were no casualties as a result of the Russian bombardment. The Wagner Group mercenaries launched an attack northeast of Bakhmut near Pidhoronne and continued fierce fighting on the eastern outskirts of Bakhmut. A Ukrainian commander reported that Russian forces did not control the industrial zone on the eastern outskirts of Bakhmut, which has been hotly debated in recent weeks. The Ukrainian commander reported that the superiority of Ukrainian drone surveillance in Bakhmut allowed the Ukrainian forces to quickly neutralize small Russian units penetrating the outskirts of the city. Ukrainian social media sources stated that Ukrainian forces completely repulsed Russian forces from the outskirts of Bakhmut. It was seen that the Russian forces attacking Bakhmut did not make any significant progress. Russian sources continued to claim that the Ukrainian forces were building defensive fortifications and preparing for street fighting in Bakhmut. Elements of the Wagner Group also launched an attack from the Kurdyomivka direction south of Bakhmut. Clashes between Russian and Ukrainian forces continue in Opytne. As a result, we see that Bakhmut is very important to achieve psychological and strategic superiority. If the Russian invaders take over this place, they can win a big morale and go further inland. However, the ingenious Ukrainian commanders are aware of this and have sent a large part of the Azov regiment to the region. Clashes are expected to intensify in the coming days. Bakhmut is also referred to as the road to the siege of Kiev for the Russians. For this reason, the Ukrainian armed forces have to defend this region no matter what. Thanks for watching.